told you right now to pack everything you need for long-term survival into one bag and never come home. Could you make that happen? Could you make that work? What would you take and what would you leave behind? And I guess more importantly than that is the concept of inch even practical, even feasible when applied in a real life situation, because as you can imagine, if you're trying to fit everything, including the kitchen sink, into one bag, that bag is going to weigh a ton. And that doesn't bode very well for long-term survival. So, is this just clickbait? Is this a cool concept that doesn't work in real life? Or can we actually build an inch bag that doesn't weigh a ton, that makes sense, and that is designed for an unseen future? Let's find out. So is this even possible? Packing everything you need into one bag for an unseen, untold future, and then stepping off into the unknown. Sounds like some sort of hocus pocus black magic to me. Maybe a myth, maybe a legend, maybe the Holy Grail. A magical bag with magical properties. So one bag to rule them all. The magical, almighty inch bag. But let's just forget about the bag for a second and talk about the term inch. Where did this concept even see the first light of day? So in order to get this historical context, we got to rewind to a simpler time, before social media had taken the internet by storm, back to the days of forums and the bulletin forums in particular. Now, if you remember forums and you're an old bastard like me, type yes down there in the comments. And I remember that time fondly. Those were the days of PhotoBucket and Image Shack and surfing the bulletin boards and picking up AK parts kits for like $300, an all matching parts kit to boot. Yeah, good times. And whatever happened to PhotoBucket or Image Shack? Did they go the way of MySpace? Now, I can't remember precisely which forum I first saw this concept discussed on. I want to say it was SKS Survivor Boards, but I remember there being a thread out there on some forum where it was a whole big conversation about inch bags, and this one guy, I think he was the op, and he had posted some information, posted some pictures of his inch bag, and talked about the overall concept. And then from that point in time, I started seeing the term inch bag just start popping up all over the place. So sure, we can think about this like a bug-out bag with a little bit of muscle, but more so what we can think about is this is a long-range survival kit designed to be leveraged in the worst-case situation possible, because I can't think of any scenario worse than being faced with the one option, grab all my shit, put it into one bag, and get the fuck out of town. So you gotta wonder, what situation could be so bad that you have to grab your inch bag and hit the road? And a few scenarios come to mind, right? So I'm thinking like maybe you're Eric Rudolph and you need to get out of town. You're a dissident on the run from the government, or anyone at this rate who is like to the right of Stalin is probably an enemy of the state. Figures, right? Makes sense? Let me know down there in the comments if that makes sense. I think it does to me. But personally, you know, you're on the run. You've done something bad. Or maybe you just got the bug for adventure. You decided to pack up your bag and head to Alaska with no experience and no prior knowledge, and you end up dying in a bus. But either way, no matter what the situation, you are either never coming home or you're going to be away from home for a long damn time. So when faced with such an important task, one cannot be lazy about it. You can't leave anything to chance. You can't just haphazardly start throwing stuff into a bag and call it a day, because you'll end up with a bunch of crap that you don't need, and you'll end up with a bag that weighs about 80 pounds. And trust me, I've been there, done that, and you don't want to do that. But the point is clear, right? You have to be intentional about what you focus on, what you pack, and let's be honest, the pack is not going to be light. It's not going to weigh 20 pounds, but it doesn't have to be any heavier than it needs to be. So in order to make this happen, I'm going to share with you 5 tips, 5 secrets, call it whatever you want, to packing the perfect inch bag. And these are based on my own personal experience. I would love to hear you guys' experience and some of the tips that you have to share for the newbies coming into the game. Drop those down there in the comment. But let's go ahead and get into it. 5 tips, 5 secrets to packing the perfect inch bag. Number 1, you've got to define the mission. Non-permissive, dangerous environment, enemy of the state. You got to maintain a low profile at all times. Maybe you're going on an adventure to Alaska, or backpacking across Europe, whatever. Define the mission first. Secondly, choose the pack and choose the clothing. For me, I'm rocking the Exo Mountain K2 3500. I like to wear blue jeans, flannels, a jacket, you know, a beanie, and maybe a little bit of camo clothes, but I like to mix it up, and I like to keep a range of clothes that will allow me to be in an urban civilian environment, but also coexist in the woods without any issue, right? So running in with all camo kit and all that, probably not the best thing if you're going to have any sort of contact with society. You might stand out like a sore thumb. And 3, make sure you leverage the 5 C's of survival. This is going to enable you to build the foundational gear that you need for survival that you're going to have in any bag, whether it's a bug out bag, an everyday pack, a 24-hour bag, a 48-hour bag, or the good old inch bag. So then after you've taken care of the 5 C's and you have that foundational survival gear squared away, then you go ahead and you think about your mission and you think about the gear that you need to take that is relevant for the mission at hand, right? So I'm talking stuff like maybe you need some thermals, maybe you need some smoke grenades, maybe you need tripwires, maybe you need stuff like that that is really relevant to the situation and the environment that you are going to be in. And then finally, guys, this is the most important one of all, and this is the one that people always like to skip, and that is get out in the field and train with your gear. Put on your backpack and go for a hike. Spend a night out, spend 2 nights out, spend the day out. Just spend some time with your gear and find out what you like, what you don't like, what you use and what you don't use, and customize and evolve your gear accordingly. Because if you're not doing that, you're really missing out on the big picture. I guess that's kind of like the equivalent of me like going out there, if I had a lot of money, buying like a Ferrari or Lamborghini or something like that, watching some YouTube videos about how to drive that Lamborghini, and then saying, all right, we're done here. I'm a race car driver, so where's the race at? Let me get at it. It's not how it works, right? So you have to actually come out in the woods with your gear, train with it, evolve your gear, and get better. Because you know how they say, oh, knowledge weighs nothing, guys. Well, guess what? Yeah, sure, knowledge weighs nothing, but knowledge is absolutely worthless without practical application and action. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but yeah, good luck with that.
Now, you may have noticed we didn't really get into a discussion about firearms, and that's only because YouTube would demonetize this video faster than a pack of starving Ethiopians chasing a donut down the street. Either way, guns and ammo do actually add some weight to your inch bag, and since they're pretty damn important to have in a long-term survival kit, I would be doing y'all a disservice if I didn't share my experience. So here's our first point of consideration. If you are planning on being super tactical and cool as and packing that main battle rifle and a full combat ammo load into the field, that's not going to be a light affair. Depending on the caliber and the platform, we're talking easy 10 pounds, 13 pounds, maybe even 15 pounds. I know when I first did this whole thing, I had the AK-47 and 8 fully loaded mags of 7.62 by 39. That came in at about 14 pounds. That's not light. And as I went through this journey of building my inch bag, I started to consider other calibers that were a little bit lighter, such as 5.56. Anyways, the point here, guys, is that think about the caliber, think about the platform, keep it simple, keep it basic, choose a weapon that you are trained on, that you know how to operate effectively under stressful conditions, and obviously, you probably want a weapon that you can easily stow in your pack and keep out of sight, because you're not going to be running around with your main battle rifle at low ready at all times. Probably not very smart, right? So, moving on to the next point. Unless you're headed to the front lines, you can probably just leave that plate carrier and armor at home. Nobody wants to wear that shit long term at all. I mean, after about 15 minutes of running around in the plate carrier and armor, I'm about done with it, right? So, leave that at home, and instead of taking that with you, go with like a battle belt. Go with a lightweight gun belt and pair that with a chest rig for extra spicy occasions, right? And if the traditional chest rig, like what you see here, is a little bit too big for your taste, you can go ahead and pare down and check out a rig like what Gadsden Dynamics offered, which is super lightweight, super low profile, and still accommodates 4 mags. And then finally, my last bit of advice when it comes to cutting weight would be to simply not take the main battle rifle and not take the ammo. You might be better off implementing a caching strategy and burying those items underground and then retrieving them on your way out of town. And that way you keep your profile lower, and the only thing you have to really maybe carry on your person is a handgun and a couple extra mags. And since we're talking about caches, what a great way to introduce redundancy and cut weight from your main survival kit. I covered the concept of caching and the different types of caches in previous videos. Check out that suggestion that's popping up right now, because you got lots of different options to choose from. There's contraband caches, there's resource supply caches, firearms caches, hell, you might just want to cache everything since you're probably going to need it on the way to your final destination. And then, I feel like I'm forgetting something. There's like this really important detail that you have to implement if you're ever going to build out a proper, legit inch bag. What could that be? Oh, that's right, training. More training, and more training, and more training. This is version 4 of my inch bag build, and I finally feel like I have a long-range sustainment kit built out that really meets my needs, that's flexible, but still covers all these survival basics, right? But obviously, there's always room for improvement. I mean, hell, this multicam is really cool, but I kind of prefer a more solid collar, which you can solve that by adding a rain cover, except for me, it's been a little difficult finding a rain cover to fit a pack of this size. And then of course it'd be super high speed and tactile as to have a sat phone, maybe some night vision, maybe an invisibility cloak, or maybe a bigger bank account, because this kind of stuff can get rather expensive. So there it is. This program is simple, but it's not exactly easy. You have to make time for this, you have to be intentional, you have to go train, you have to evolve your gear, you have to take those experiences and those notes and make a survival kit that is perfect for you, for your needs, for your requirements, and the mission at hand. But I'll be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about all this stuff we're talking about, self-reliance, survivalism, survival kits, guns, ammo, and then combine that with all the working out that I do, I'm starting to get scared that I might be turning into a dangerous right-wing extremist. That wouldn't be cool. At least that's what my government tells me, that I should think like this, that I should have more faith in the government and not question things, right? So I think it's safer just to do that. So I'm going to go back to my pod. I'm going to chop off my penis to protest the patriarchy. I'm going to have dinner and bug tacos, and I think I'll call it a night.